Growing up, I had a great childhood. I never had to worry about how I was going to eat at night or where I was going to sleep, but somewhere along the way, my outlook on life changed. I began to lose pleasure in the things that previously brought me joy. I became lethargic and down, and I ultimately lost hope in general. My parents were watching their energetic and happy kids slip away. That's when my parents realized that I had depression. I didn't reach out for so long because I've grown up with the idea that I should just toughen up or get over it. That's why I'm going to discuss the causes, symptoms, and treatments of depression. Then I will talk about the reasons and effects that the male mental health stigma can have. First, we need to define depression. According to the Mayo Clinic website, depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. J.K. Rowling once said, "It's so difficult to describe depression to someone who's never been there because it isn't sadness." Depression is the leading cause of suicide in the United States, according to the retreatbehavioralhealth.com. To better understand depression, we need to know the causes. Depression is caused by a variety of reasons, some of the more common reasons being traumatic events, genetics, and medications. A traumatic event can cause great distress to a person, which can overwhelm them and can sometimes result in them being depressed. Things like the death of a loved one or a breakup are examples of this. Moving on, I want to talk about one of the most heartbreaking causes of depression, genetics. Not much is known how depression can be passed from a parent to their offspring, but certain inherited traits can increase the rate of depression. Medications are another huge source of depression. Certain medications can affect the part of the brain that regulates mood, which can cause depression. Victims of this are oftentimes people who just were prescribed pain meds due to a surgery or an injury. There are numerous other causes of depression, but despite knowing what the causes are, you need to be able to identify the symptoms. The symptoms of depression can vary from person to person. The more common symptoms being lethargic behavior, extreme sadness, loss of sleep or interest, and irritable behavior. Although these are the telltale signs of depression, that some people may try and hide their symptoms. You should always reach out to friends and loved ones to make sure that they are doing okay, because depression is much more easily treatable during the early stages. This leads me to the treatments of depression. Fortunately, depression has a numerous number of treatments. One thing that helps me oftentimes is talking to a loved one or a close friend. They help me process things, and they remind me that I'm not alone. A therapist does the same thing, just on a more intimate and professional level. These things may not be enough, so a doctor may prescribe antidepressants to help regulate your brain chemistry. Next, depression is a very treatable disease, but unfortunately, many men suffer from depression, fall victim to the male mental health stigma. I will talk about the reasons of the stigma, and then I will discuss the effects it can have. The male mental health stigma has been around forever, but it has only increased over the past few decades. Toxic masculinity is the biggest enemy to male mental health. There's this concept that men should have to be strong and not be able to talk about their feelings because that's something that women do. Obviously, this is a backwards, sexist, even homophobic statement, but people still believe it. Men are still often afraid to be called girly or gay for talking about their feelings, so they don't talk at all. This leads men to turn to dangerous behaviors like alcohol and drug abuse, and even suicide. Men are 2 to 3 times more likely to abuse drugs compared to women, and 3 times more likely to die in alcohol-related incidences, according to the Center for Behavioral Health Statistics and Quality. The scariest statistic, according to Mental Health of America, men are 4 times more likely to kill themselves than women. Depression alone isn't the killer, it's the stigma wrapped around with it. Although the stigma won't go away overnight, more and more awareness is being brought to this subject. I know from my own experience that depression is treatable and beatable. Knowing the causes, symptoms, and treatments of depression will improve your odds of beating it. There's always a rainbow after the rain. You just have to stick around long enough to see it. Thank you. I have been homesick the past few days with COVID-related symptoms, so that is why I have no audience. Thank you.